reading from the NIV, New International Version, so it may read just a little differently. Then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call him. Yeah. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, your mother and your brothers are outside looking for you. Who are my mother and my brothers? Jesus asked. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, here are my mother and here is my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my mother and my brother and my sister. I want to tag a topic to this text. Are you a part of the family? Are you a part of the family? Too often, we have thought that everyone who is related to us is a part of our family. We have thought that just because a person shares the same blood as we do, that they can be considered our family. We have even heard it said, you can't choose your family. However, I would like to argue otherwise. We cannot choose who we are related to, but we can choose our family. The reality is that although some people are related to us, they are not our family. In order for a person to be family, some type of relationship must exist. That's right. We have a socialized version of what we think a family is. But as we read the Bible, we can see that God is interested in us developing within a spiritual family. Church, in order to be a family, there has to be relationship. The reality is that many of us have a lot of relatives, but a lot of us don't have a lot of family. Family includes those who have your back and have your best interest at heart. But I come to tell you that a person does not have to be related to you to be family. The only requirement is that a person is able to be counted on through thick and thin. Many of us have folk we've known for so long that they are no longer friends. They have become family. This is because sometimes these people had our back even when those who weren't related to us did not have our back. For instance, last week, me and Miss Davis went to visit Miss Shirley Williams at Jackson General Hospital. She was in good spirits, telling everybody what they needed to be doing. She was so glad to see us, and we talked for a very long time. While talking to her, I took the chance to ask her some questions about her life. I asked Mother Williams, how many children do you have? She paused and looked at me and laughed and said, I have too many to count. I was confused, and then she clarified it by saying, I didn't birth any children, but I've raised many children. Mother Williams may not have physically given birth, but she still has children and grandchildren. She may not be blood with some folk or related to some folk, but she is family with many. I'm sure many of you know some people who've done the same thing. They may have not birthed children, but they raised children and they have a family. In the black community, this is common because during slavery, our families were broken apart and we were sent to different plantations. Imagine living in North Carolina and your blood sister being sold to Tennessee and your blood brother being sold to Georgia, only never to be heard from again. This was our reality. So on the plantations, we took up with whoever took up with us, and we became a family. Whoever was in the cotton fields with us, that was our family. Whoever lived in the slave shack with us, that was our family. Whoever faced the same hopelessness that we did, that was our family. This is the struggle that helped black families to develop. And this is why our family should be the strongest unit, because no other group has survived what we've survived. It makes no sense for us to want to kill each other and argue with each other when it's only a wonder that God has allowed us to survive. But on a spiritual level, isn't that the same way? A lot of us are related to God because he made us, but the real question is, are we a part of his family? John 13:35 says, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Jesus was asked in the book of Matthew, which is the greatest commandment? He said, love the Lord God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. And then he went on to say, love your neighbor as yourself. So we know who is a part of our family by how they love on us. If a person constantly puts you down and constantly gives you a hard time, they are not your family. Your family consists of those who will help you and those who will bring out the best in you. But to our text, the book of Mark is the oldest book of the gospel in the Bible. It's one of the synoptic gospels along with Matthew and Luke. Synoptic means out of the same eye. Basically saying that these three authors wrote from the same perspective with their stories. They wrote from the same perspective, which was to lift up Jesus, but they all had different audiences. For instance, Matthew wrote to the Jews. Luke wrote to the outsiders. And Mark wrote to the Christians under persecution. Here we find in the text Mark writing about Jesus and the development of the Christian family. This is important because the Christian family is now more necessary than ever. I say that because everyone does not come from a close family or a big family. Having a church family, having a Christian family can take the place of a person's family not being all that close. For instance, the New Testament Christians were not just a church, they were a family. They were a family because they lived in love on each other. It was not about how can I come up, but it was about how can we come up together. Matter of fact, in the book of Acts chapter 4, it says that all the believers were in one heart and in one mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own. They shared everything that they had. The church family in Acts shared with each other because they realized everything that they had belonged to their Father. But what if we had this same mentality? What if we shared our gifts to make our services and our ministries more effective? What if we use our mouths to encourage rather than to upset others? What if we use our hands and feet to serve rather than to point out what others are not doing? The church as a family is important because it can be a substitute for those who may not have a good family or a close family. You may not have someone you can call when things start to go wrong. You may not have someone you can call when you need to get stuff off your chest. You may not have anybody who will invite you to dinner. You may not have any kids the same age as yours to play with. You may not have anyone who will pray with you and pray for you. But when you are a part of a church family, a spiritual family, these are the things you should be able to count on. But in our text, Jesus' mothers and brothers came to get him and showed up expecting him to come. But Jesus was not moved by people being related to him. He was moved by those who were part of his family. Jesus replied to them when they said his family was looking for him, who is my family. This is to teach us that the family unit of Jesus consisted of those who followed him and did the work of God with him. The social science commentary of the Synoptic Gospels states that during this time, there was no such thing as individualism. People were known and tied to whoever their family was. You could not escape your family name. So if your family was known as thieves, folk would assume you were a thief. If you were poor, then folk would assume you were poor. Your family would be poor. So for Jesus to claim a new family by saying those who do God's will are my family, Jesus was changing things. It was literally impossible to overcome your upbringing or your situation that you was born in. But here you have a poor peasant named Jesus claiming he was above his social status and that he was in a family with those who may have not had and those who may have. That should be good news for somebody because God does not hold against us what was done before us. For instance, if your brother was one who would steal, you could be the one who kills. If your sister is a liar, you could be the one who tells the truth. If your daddy is a deadbeat, you could be the one that's faithful. If your mama loved to gossip about folk, you could be the one that lift folk up. But Jesus was dangerous because he was placing God's children on an equal playing field. He was saying, regardless of how much money or status that you have, if you do God's will, then you are a part of my family. But church, our family should consist of those who work with us to build up God's kingdom. That simply means that we all should live for each other. Crime families kill for each other. But as Christians, we should live for each other. We should always be looking for ways to help each other and look out for each other. Watch this. What does it mean? If someone needs help, we help. If someone needs a job, hook them up with a connection. If someone needs a relationship, hook them up with a good match. Church, family don't hold things from family. Family is supposed to help. But this makes me think of people in our family who love us so much that they risk death. Harriet Tubman comes to mind. She would go and rescue enslaved blacks from plantations all over the South. She even carried a shotgun with her, and she was not scared to use it. Tubman would even pull the shotgun on blacks who would not run away from the plantation when she came to her. But she would not allow them to get in the way of other people being free. Church, we need more folk like Harriet Tubman. We need leaders who will sacrifice their lives for all of us to be free. We don't need to be a group of people who just goes along to get along. We don't need to be a group of people who just keep their head down waiting on God to do something for us. We need to be a group of people who praise with our hands and praise with our feet. It's not God's will for us to be dependent on the same system that enslaved us. We must realize that God has opened up windows and doors. It's just up to us to climb and walk through. But Jesus said, whoever does the will of his Father is a part of his family. Jesus in our text, according to the New Interpreter Study Bible, values those who do the will of God. Jesus defines his new family over and against any form of blood relationship. The only requirement to be a part of his family is to do the will of God. I'm so glad that I don't have to be wealthy to be a part of his family. I'm so glad that I don't have to be perfect to be a part of his family. I'm so glad that I don't have to know every book in the Bible to be a part of his family. All I have to do is have love in my heart, and I can be a part of the family. The old folks will say, "'Tis the old ship of Zion. 'Tis the old ship of Zion." Get on board. Get on board if you want to see Jesus. All we have to do is get on board with what he's doing, and we'll see our lives become more fulfilled. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to have a natural family, but it's even better to have a spiritual family. I'm so glad that we serve a God who accepts those who accept him. The good news is that he won't turn his back on us even when we turn our backs on him. Some of us never cared about having a spiritual family or being a part of a spiritual family. So long we only thought about self. We thought we were making it because of us, but we only made it because of his love. There are many things that I can't do, and there are many things that you can't do, but we don't have to do them if we are a part of God's family. It's true that you can be good alone, but it's also true we are better together. I cannot make a world and hold it in my hands. I cannot make lightning flash across the lake. I cannot take a piece of clay and mold it into man. But we have a Father. Now he sits high and looks low and guides our footsteps where we go. When we don't understand, we have a Father. I cannot make a cloud and ascend it into the sky. I cannot love humanity so much that I would die. I cannot even name the stars or count the grains of sand. Oh, we have a Father. I'm reminded of a story that was once told by a elder. He told me about this young girl who didn't want to be identified with her family. She went to a good school, was liked by all her peers. She was even on the cheerleading team, and she even made straight A's. She had long hair. She had long legs, and she even had a large smile, which means all the boys wanted her attention. She didn't want to be identified with her family because her family was not what she thought it should be. Her daddy had been in prison, so daddy had a hard time getting a job. So instead of finding a job, daddy found a whiskey bottle. Her mom was a nurse, and her mom took care of the kids while husband was in prison. But mama had gotten worn down with all the kids. Mama had gotten worn down with the pressures on her job. So mama ended up having a nervous breakdown. Mama couldn't attend her daughter's events because mama wasn't well. And daddy couldn't attend because daddy would be too drunk to go. But by the time daddy sobered up enough to drive, her events would be over. So when this young pretty girl had to give her valedictorian speech at her graduation, she didn't want her drunk daddy and her sick mama to come. She thought they would embarrass her in front of her friends, classmates, and teachers. She didn't want nobody to know that she belonged to them. So the young girl decided to drive herself to graduation and go off and leave her drunk daddy. The only problem is this girl had never drove before. She barely got out the neighborhood and crashed into a park. The girl was seriously injured, but when she needed somebody to come to the hospital, her friends didn't show up. Her teachers didn't show up. Her boys didn't show up. Her drunk daddy and her sick mama showed up. She tried to avoid being with them, but when she needed them the most, they were right there. The church ain't there just like the Lord. Try to avoid them, but he always shows up. Even when we don't say thank you, still blesses us. When we get broke, he give us money. belong to him. I come to tell you, don't be ashamed to be a part of the family. God's family is a good family. God's family is the best family. God's family is full of people, full of obstacles, but we see them as opportunities. We are people who may lose a battle, but God's people never lose a war. We are people who may never be perfect, but we are people who are shown up faithful. We are faithful people because we have a faithful Father. They hung him high, stretched him high. He hung his head for you and me. But that's not how the story